Every personal relationship starts with relationship bonding. Modern science understands relationship bonding as a complex neurobiological and psychological process, one that is deeply rooted in our evolutionary need for connection and survival. It involves specific brain circuits and a powerful mix of neurochemicals that promote trust, affection, and long-term attachment. What's important to understand is that the relationship bonding is largely an unconscious process. That's why people often struggle to explain why they fell in love, why a relationship felt so right in the beginning, or why they fell out of love. The unconscious forces shaping those experiences were at work long before conscious reasoning entered the picture. In my book, Who is More Important, Me or You?, I propose that there are 6 primary relationship bonds that shape every relationship dynamic and largely determine how people behave towards one another. These are the bonds of enjoyment, trust, appreciation, empathy, dependency, and obligation. To make this clearer, let's look how these bonds form in romantic relationships and shape their dynamic. Most romantic relationships begin very simply. You notice someone you find appealing, someone who feels like a bit of all right, and you're drawn to spend time with them. If those early interactions are enjoyable, you naturally want more of them. You invest time and energy, driven by curiosity and the desire to know them more deeply. This is the enjoyment bond forming, and it's usually the first to take form. Think about it. Would you continue spending time and energy with someone whose company you didn't enjoy? Of course not. The desire to keep seeing someone in the early stages of a relationship is largely determined by how much you enjoy being with them. Soon after, a second bond begins to form, trust. At first you don't consciously analyze whether you can trust this person, but as something happens that raises doubt about their trustworthiness, especially regarding your emotional or physical well-being, everything changes. Distrust quickly undermines enjoyment, and the relationship becomes fragile. Most people wouldn't continue seeing someone they felt they couldn't trust. So in the early stages of a healthy romantic relationship, what's holding it together is 1. The enjoyment of each other's company, 2. A sense that neither partner poses a threat to the other's well-being. As the relationship develops further, something else emerges. Partners start doing things for one another, not because they have to, but because they genuinely care. This gives rise to appreciation and gratitude, which naturally deepen the desire to be together. At this stage, the relationship is held together by enjoyment, trust, and appreciation. As emotional intimacy grows, partners begin sharing their personal struggles, disappointments, and the pain they have experienced in life. When this sharing is met with understanding and care, empathy bonds form. Now the relationship is being held together by 4 powerful forces: enjoyment, trust, appreciation, and empathy. Now let's take a moment to reflect on that. You're with someone whose company you genuinely enjoy. You trust them with your well-being. They value what you bring to their life, and they have the empathy to be there for you when you're in need. Isn't this what people often experience when they fall in love? Isn't this what many refer as a honeymoon phase? I call these 4 bonds the feel-good relationship bonds. Understanding how they form and how they weaken is key to understanding why relationships flourish or fall apart. Contrast that with being in a relationship where you no longer enjoy your partner's company, where you don't feel valued, where empathy for you is little or non-existent, and where trust in your partner's desire or ability to behave fairly is low. Isn't this how many people feel when they fall out of love? How many people, upon falling in love, saw their relationship as a dream come true, but then, when feelings of love disappeared, found it morphed into a bit of a nightmare. Now, just as falling in love is largely an unconscious process, so too is falling out of love. Most people are unaware of how the feel-good relationship bonds that were once strong and healthy gradually weakened and fell apart. The change happens quietly, beneath awareness, until the emotional disconnection and trauma become impossible to ignore. As these four feel-good bonds mature, partners naturally begin to rely on each other for support. Along with that reliance comes a growing expectation that their partner will provide the support they believe they deserve or need. This is how dependency bonds form and build. Closely following this is the development of obligation bonds. As couples share their private emotional and physical space, many come to believe that their partners should be doing their part to support and protect the sanctity of that shared space. For some, this includes maintaining their home or keeping what happens between them private. When both partners feel that their expectations are being met fairly, dependency and obligation issues tend to have a benign impact on the feel-good bonds. But when one party feels the other is not living up to their expectations, everything changes. The unconscious psychology that drives dependency and obligation is often rooted in transactional psychology. You can see this at work when you start weighing up what you do for your partner with what they do for you, or the consideration you show them with the consideration you receive in return. These comparisons become more sharply focused when couples live together and share their physical space and resources. You know the dialogue, I'm doing all this, what are you doing? What's really examined in these moments is the extent to which our unconscious bias in favor of ourselves has put its thumbs on our fairness scales. This can lead to a distorted or exaggerated sense of being wronged. When people believe, rightly or wrongly, that they are being treated poorly or unfairly, stress follows. At an unconscious level, this is experienced as a threat to well-being, triggering fight or flight behavior. In fight mode, a person may try to pressure their partner to behave as they believe their partner should, pushing them to comply. The partner on the receiving end often perceives such behavior as an attempt to dominate or control them, which threatens their sense of freedom and causes them to become stressed. Under stress, they may become angry and fight back, or withdraw and avoid engaging with their partner. When dependency and obligation bonds dominate a relationship dynamic infused with feelings of unfairness, they typically erode the strength and health of the four feel-good bonds. Let's take a moment to reflect on this. When a partner repeatedly tries to get you to do what they want, or to be who they think you should be, doesn't that reduce your desire to enjoy their company, dampen your appreciation of them, and make empathy for them harder to find? When the feel-good bonds are on life support, and the relationship is held together primarily by dependency and obligation bonds infected with feelings of unfairness, the relationship dynamic will likely shift from being governed by feelings of goodwill to those of power and control. In these situations, people tend to consciously or unconsciously leverage their partner's fears or dependency to pressure compliance. Many of you will have experienced this or witnessed it. Some people set themselves up for relationships dominated by dependency and obligation. They focus primarily on the external benefits a relationship offers, like another status, wealth, power, good looks or reputation. They see such people as a good catch and pay little attention to their partner's desire or capacity to be a fair person. Like most relationships, these often begin with enjoyment bonding, but when appreciation and empathy bonds form, they tend to be weak or undeveloped. And while no obvious red flags appear around trust early on, they often lie buried within the bowels of their partner's mind before showing themselves later on. Understanding this is essential, because without recognizing how dependency and obligation bonds form and how they can quietly undermine the health of the feel-good bonds, people will unintentionally repeat painful behaviors that undermine the health of their relationships. Now, when a person finds a partner and develops strong feel-good bonds with them, they often believe their good fortune was due to their natural chemistry or compatibility, and assume that the good times will last forever. A crude analogy of this phenomenon is somebody winning a lottery and unconsciously believing that the money they won will last and last and deliver the lifestyle they desire. Within the rough and tumble of everyday life, this manifests as giving little or no thought to investing that money to ensure that it does deliver that lifestyle. In relationship speak, landing the partner of your dreams is like winning a lottery. You experience a dopamine high. However, because you're unaware of the relationship bonding that enabled you to fall in love in the first place, you are likely to take the health of the feel-good bonds formed for granted, unconsciously believing they will remain in good health forever. Consequently, you give little or no thought to the idea that they may need to be maintained to keep the relationship you have come to treasure alive and healthy. How many people reflect on whether they are doing their bit to maintain the health of these bonds? This is easily done by asking oneself, am I there for my partner when they genuinely need my help? Am I being creative and making the time to have fun with them? Interacting with them with the banter and sweetness that creates lightheartedness and laughter? Am I showing them appreciation for the support and kindness they give me? Am I being a person whom my partner can trust with their well-being? How many people feel too busy or naive to realize the value of maintaining the health of these feel-good relationship bonds? Now, while it's vitally important to spend time and energy on maintaining them, it's also essential to understand the behavior that weakens these bonds and the unconscious psychology that undermines their health. One primary culprit is relationship stress, especially when triggered by real or perceived unfair behavior.